When the bathroom faucet started dripping again, I sighed and set the wrench down. It was a subtle sound, barely audible over the hum of the dishwasher and the soft jazz playing on the living room speaker, but it had driven me half crazy all week. My husband, Mark, usually handled all the repairs around the house, but he'd left for a 2-week work trip to Denver, and everything that could go wrong had suddenly decided it would. Mark and I had been married for over 20 years. He was a calm, practical man, dependable and steady. I loved that about him. But I'd never really learned how to fix things myself. I could cook, run a tight household, and manage a classroom full of 4th graders 5 days a week. But plumbing? That was a different story. So when the leak got worse and started dripping steadily onto the bathroom floor, I knew I had to do something. I texted my nephew, Jason, who had recently graduated from community college and was doing part-time work in general home repair while studying to become a licensed plumber. "Hey, Jason. Faucet's leaking again. Mark's away. Think you could take a look sometime this week?" Jason replied within minutes. "Sure, Aunt Lily. I can come by this afternoon if that works." It did. Around 3:30 p.m., the doorbell rang. I opened it to see Jason, tool bag in hand, dressed in work boots and a gray t-shirt, hair damp like he'd just showered. He grinned, his boyish charm still the same as when he used to run around our backyard in swim trunks during summer BBQs. "Hey, Aunt Lily," he said. Come in," I said, stepping aside. "The bathroom's upstairs. I'm so glad you could stop by." "Of course. Let's take a look." Jason followed me upstairs, and I showed him the dripping faucet in the master bathroom. He crouched down, inspecting the pipes, occasionally muttering things like, "corrosion here," and "these seals are old." I watched from the doorway, arms crossed, marveling at how grown-up he looked. He'd always been a good kid, curious, hard-working, polite. And now here he was, confidently tackling the faucet like he'd done it 100 times. "How's your mom?" I asked, leaning against the wall. "She's good. Still gardening too much," he said with a chuckle. "Wears that giant sun hat and lectures the neighborhood kids about watering schedules." I laughed. "Sounds like her." He tightened something with a wrench, then stood up. "I'm going to need a couple replacement parts. I can run to the hardware store and be back in like 30 minutes if that works." "That's perfect. I'll make us some lemonade." While Jason was gone, I tidied the kitchen and sliced up a few lemons. The house felt oddly quiet without Mark in it, but Jason's presence had warmed the place up. I found myself smiling at the familiarity. It was nice having family close, even for small things like this. When he returned, he worked quickly. I handed him the lemonade while he reattached the new fittings, his focus intense but relaxed. By the time he finished, the faucet was running smoothly with no drips, no leaks. "All set," he said, standing and wiping his hands. "You're a miracle worker," I said, genuinely impressed. "It wasn't that bad," he said modestly. "Most people just don't realize how simple it can be with the right tools." I offered him some leftover cookies from the tin Mark's mom had sent, and we sat on the back porch, sipping lemonade, chatting about his plans. He was thinking of moving into his own place soon. Nothing fancy, just a small apartment with room for his tools and a dog, eventually. "Funny," he said. "I always thought I'd end up working in tech or something. But I like fixing stuff. It's satisfying. Tangible. Like you can see what you've done by the end of the day." "There's a lot of value in that," I said, nodding. "I teach kids all day, but sometimes I wonder what sticks. With a fixed faucet, at least you know for sure." He smiled, and we sat in comfortable silence for a moment. That evening, after Jason left, I walked back into the bathroom and turned the faucet on and off a few times, just to admire how perfect it was. I caught my reflection in the mirror, tired eyes, hair starting to gray, and smiled. It wasn't just the faucet that had made the day better. It was the reminder that we're all still learning from each other. That help doesn't always come from where you expect. And that sometimes, the next generation really does step up when you need them most. A couple of days later, I got a message from Mark. Hotel's decent. Meetings are long. How's the faucet? Perfect, I replied, attaching a picture of the shiny, drip-free fixture. Did you fix it? I smiled at my phone before texting back, with a little help from Jason. Mark called later that night, and we talked for a while. I told him about Jason's visit, the lemonade, and our conversation about careers and satisfaction. Mark chuckled. That kid always had a knack for stuff like that. Glad he could help. Did he charge you? He refused. Said it was a favor for family. Well, then we owe him a big dinner. We do. When Mark finally came back the following week, we invited Jason over for that promised dinner. I made lasagna and garlic bread, and we all sat around the table talking and laughing. Mark and Jason compared tool brands and work gloves, and I just sat back, soaking it all in. It reminded me that homes aren't just bricks and paint. They're made of people, of moments like these. Family helping each other, stories shared over meals, the quiet understanding that no one really gets through life alone. In the weeks that followed, Jason stopped by a couple more times to help with other things. A squeaky cabinet door, a light fixture I couldn't reach. He never stayed long, but each visit left behind a sense of comfort and support that lingered like the scent of lemon in the kitchen. And every time I walked into the bathroom and saw that faucet, working just as it should, I felt a small sense of pride, not because I'd fixed it, but because I'd known who to call, and he'd answered. Because family had shown up, not with grand gestures, but with a wrench, a smile and time to spare.